Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are taking a journey into French history through a small but fascinating coin, the French 1/2 franc from 1966. At first glance, this coin may look simple. It is a small nickel coin with a familiar figure, a few words, and a date. But behind this modest piece of metal is a story involving French Republican values, famous French coin design, monetary reform, and one of the most recognizable artistic figures in French numismatics. The coin in today's video is the 1966 French 1/2 franc, commonly known as the sous, or semouse. It belongs to the currency system of the French Fifth Republic and carries the famous national motto, Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, Liberty, Equality, Fraternity. U-coin +1. So, let's discover the history behind this interesting French coin. The 1966 French 1/2 franc. The coin shown here is a half franc, which was equal to 50 centimes in the French monetary system. It was issued in 1966, during the early years of the French Fifth Republic. The Fifth Republic had been established in 1958, and Charles de Gaulle became its first president under the new constitutional system. By 1966, France was experiencing an important period of economic and political change. The country was rebuilding and modernizing after the difficult years surrounding the Second World War. This little coin was part of everyday French commerce. It was not produced primarily as a collector's object. It was a practical circulation coin intended to be used by ordinary people for everyday transactions. According to numismatic references, the 1966 1/2 franc was made of nickel, weighed approximately 4.5 grams, measured about 19.5 millimeters across, and had a reeded edge. U-coin +1. The design is catalogued as KM#931.1. The famous sous design. One of the most important features of this coin is the artistic design associated with Louis-Oscar Roty. Roty was a highly respected French medallist and engraver whose work became extremely influential in French coinage. The famous female figure is known as the sous, or semouse in French. She is shown walking forward while scattering seeds across a field. This is much more than a picture of a woman working in agriculture. The sous became a powerful symbol of France. The image represents ideas such as work, progress, agriculture, hope, and the future. The act of planting seeds can be understood as a metaphor for building a better future. That is one reason the sous became such an enduring image in French numismatics. On the coin, the design is accompanied by the inscription, République Française. The artist's signature, O. Roty, can also be seen as part of the design. U-coin +1. Why was the sous used again? The interesting thing about the 1966 coin is that the sous design was not newly created in 1966. The original sous design dates back to the work of Louis-Oscar Roty around the beginning of the 20th century. The design had already become associated with French Republican coinage decades before the 1960s. Its return and continued use demonstrated how powerful the image had become. Even though France had experienced enormous changes between the early 20th century and the 1960s, the sous still represented ideals that remained meaningful. The image connected modern France with an earlier artistic and republican tradition. This is one of the reasons collectors find the series interesting. The coin is not simply a product of 1966. It carries an artistic tradition that reaches much further back. The reverse of the coin. Now let's look at the other side. The reverse displays the denomination. 1/2 franc. Below and around the design is the famous French Republican motto. Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité. Translated into English, this means liberty, equality, fraternity. These three words are among the most recognizable symbols of the French Republic. The reverse also features an olive branch. The olive branch has long been associated with peace and harmony, giving the design another symbolic layer. U-coin +1. The combination of the denomination, the olive branch, and the national motto gives this small coin a remarkably strong visual identity. France and the Fifth Republic. To understand this coin better, we should look at the historical period in which it was produced. The French Fifth Republic began in 1958, following a major political crisis. The new constitutional system created a stronger presidency, and Charles de Gaulle became the dominant political figure of the early Fifth Republic. France was also going through rapid modernization. Cities were expanding, industries were changing, transportation was improving, and French society was becoming increasingly modern. The 1960s were therefore a fascinating period in French history. And this little 1/2 franc circulated directly among the people living through those changes. Imagine receiving this coin as change in a French shop in 1966. At that moment, the euro did not exist. The French franc was the country's national currency, and the 1/2 franc represented 50 centimes. For millions of French citizens, coins like this were simply part of everyday life. The material, nickel, not silver. One important point about this coin is its metal. The 1966 French 1/2 franc is made from nickel, not silver. Numismatic references list its weight at about 4.5 grams and its diameter at approximately 19.5 millimeters. U-coin +1. This is important because some collectors may confuse French 1/2 franc coins with certain older European coins that were made of silver. The 1966 piece belongs to a modern base metal series. Its purpose was practical circulation rather than precious metal investment. Because it was designed for everyday use, the coin was produced in large numbers. How many were made? The 1966 issue was not particularly rare in terms of original production. Numismatic sources give a mintage of approximately 88.89 million pieces for the standard circulation issue. U-coin +1. That is an enormous number. With nearly 89 million examples produced, the coin was clearly intended for widespread circulation throughout France. This also explains why collectors can still encounter examples today. However, there is an important difference between rarity and value. A coin can be historically interesting without being extremely valuable. For a common circulation coin like this, condition can make a major difference. A heavily circulated example may have considerable wear, while an exceptionally well-preserved example can be much more desirable to collectors. What happened to the French franc? The 1966 1/2 franc belonged to a currency system that eventually disappeared. For decades, the French franc was one of Europe's important national currencies. But by the end of the 20th century, European monetary integration was changing the financial landscape. France became one of the countries adopting the euro. The euro was introduced as an accounting currency in 1999 and entered everyday circulation in coins and banknotes in 2002. As a result, the old French franc and its denominations, including the 1/2 franc, eventually became obsolete as circulating money. This gives the 1966 coin an additional historical importance. It represents a monetary system that no longer exists.